Let's go. Let's go.
Oh my goodness.
So cringe.
Let's go. We got him.
Hey, we got him though. We got him.
did.
That's all
We
that
got
matters
him.
now. Come on, Benjamin. Come on, Colby.
Colby.
Play Sports Talk. Y'all in here. We got him. We got him. He's a Philadelphia Philly. I think we all expected it to happen. So like it's very hype, but I mean I'm not over the moon just because I felt like this was in the works since last offseason. So I'm still I'm pumped though. Like I'm pumped to see Trey Turner in Phillies uniform. Thoughts, guys?
Dude,
you can go first.
So happy. I mean, while we said like we knew it was going to happen, there's still that thing in the back of your head that's like, well, they're not going to make it happen. But just seeing it happen is so good. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how our lineup changes as far as batting order and kind of that profile picture, man, and how that infield changes. He's just going to add so much to it, and I can't wait. And we have him for so long, so we have him for 11 years, which I think is around the time we have Bryce. So we've got these guys for a while, and they're going to continue to just get better and better. You know, they're in their prime and they're still going.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Nate said it perfect. Swaggy T said it perfectly. I mean, like,
Swaggy T's Trey, guys, come on.
I mean, kind of like what Nate was saying. It felt like it was going to happen. Like, I feel like the whole MLB knew it was going to happen. Trey wanted to come here. We wanted him here. And I think, a big telltale sign was like, if we weren't confident that we were going to get Trey or like another top tier shortstop, we wouldn't have let go of Gene. And I mean, you could clearly see the signs, but also, at the same time, it's Philly, right? And we've had our memories where it's like, this guy is a lock. This guy's coming to Philly. Frank Gore, even Johnny Gaudreau, where it was like, Johnny Gaudreau, we were like, Johnny Gaudreau is coming to Philly. Like, he wants to come here. We want him to be here. He's a hometown kid. Nope. Like, so it just, I don't know. It just seemed like something that you were like, this would be a very Philadelphia thing to happen if we were to drop the ball on Trey Turner somehow. And praise God we didn't. I don't know. I sent a tweet in our group chat, but I don't know if anyone saw it, but Alex Carr, who Hunter swears by as well as like an analyst, well, maybe not swear
for the most part,
likes him a lot. He said the deal is 11 years long time, but it shortens Trey Turner's AAV to an easily manageable 27.3 mil a season. Just like Bryce Harper's deal, it gives the team financial flexibility to add as years go by. Which, I mean, like, credit to Dombrowski for working that out. I mean, that's going to be huge. The fact that we signed such a big player in Trey Turner for such a long time. I mean, I think he's only 28, 29. So, like, he definitely has a lot of good years left. And, I'm over the moon.
I mean, I think you mentioned it, Ian. The AAV was shocking to me because I had heard from anywhere on the margins of like 30 to 37 million. Usually landed around that 33 range of what people thought it was going to be. So keep in mind, guys, like, yeah, 11 years is a long time, but also you're paying this guy maybe like 10 million less than what his highest value could have been, and like a good 6 million less than what people thought he was going to get paid, maybe 3 million less than what the lower end of it was. Like, I mean, that's a huge impact because now you can go sign, you have an extra like few million. Now you can go maybe sign a Carlos Rodon for like a big amount of money. You definitely could get Jameson Taillon to add to that rotation if you just want to get a guy who's more of a back end arm, but still an upgrade from what we had. Like, you have all this money now, not a ton more, but you still have a lot of money to go get a starting pitcher in the market. Like Zach said, if we get a few quality arms, like I think we just need one starter, to be honest. Like, we could survive with Bailey Falter as the fifth guy throughout a whole season, and your fifth guy's not going to start in the playoffs, right? Like, you still have all this money to go get another starter, and you're probably going to either trade or like sign for a couple relievers at winter meetings. I believe we got Alvarado at winter meetings a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, and you might get a guy who's, when we got Alvarado, it was like, all right, if we can figure out how to, get his command better and like get him to be a little more of a solidified pitcher, then he'll be a really good bullpen piece. But that we might be able to get a guy who already is pretty solidified in the bullpen if you really go aggressive in the winter meetings. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think this is awesome. I'm super pumped about it. And I think just, again, the flexibility it gives us is huge. So, Nate, I know you got to go soon. Anything else you wanted to say before you head out, man?
Yeah, I mean, like Zach and you said, this opens up a lot for just building on this team that is already so elite. I mean, we did lose Eflin, but this allows us to fill that role and maybe even more. Rodon is going to be tough, definitely. It's not going to be a given like it is with Turner, but I think that this deal really, one, helps financially, and two, helps with just Rodon wanting to come to Philly now because we're the NL champs. We just got Trey Turner. We really haven't lost anything. Eflin's little, and if Rodon wants a shot at the World Series, we're one of the best teams for him to do. So this really does, in my opinion, just make us even more likely to get trades and free agency signings. And I mean, I'm just excited. I trust Dombrowski. I trust this team. And I can't wait to see Trey Turner in the pinstripes this upcoming next year, because it's not the new year yet. Yeah, so dude, I'm excited. I'll let the rest of the stream go to you guys. But let's go, Phils. Ring the bell, run, Bibby, run. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But, dude, I'm hyped, dude. I'm hyped. I'm wearing this jersey all day. So I will see you guys later. Let's go, Phils.
See you, Nate. Thanks for hopping in, man.
See you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, and is this a little too close or is this fine?
I'm good with this. I'm good with it.
So, look, we were interested in Rodon at the deadline. I don't know if we're going to get him, but I do think the fact that the Rangers spent a lot of their money on DeGrom opens it up a little bit for us because I think they were a big contender for Rodon. I still think we'll probably end up with someone like Tyone or maybe Ross Stripling. I don't know if we'll go that route, but it's a possibility. But, yeah, the flexibility it gives us, and I think it shows you, Trey wants to be here. He wants to be with his best buddy, Bryce. He wants to be back where his wife's from, which is from New Jersey. He wanted to be on the East Coast. I think he liked playing in Washington. I don't know if he loved playing in LA. I think he liked his teammates. I think he liked playing for the Dodgers. I don't know if he loved being a West Coast guy. And look, you get a guy at the top of your lineup now. I mean, you think about that lineup, you're almost guaranteed to have a runner on second base at least once a game with Trey Turner at the top lineup. Now, granted, he'll go through his ups and downs. He is a streaky player, but at the same time, I mean, even as streaky as he's been, the final result at the end of the season, just with the production he has, is pretty insane. So now you probably get Trey in the 1 or 2 spot. I'd imagine he's going to lead off. Depends on what Schwarber wants. If Schwarber's more comfortable in the leadoff spot, I'd imagine they'd probably want to move Schwarber to the middle of the lineup now. So now you have Schwarber in the middle of the lineup with Bryce. You get Bryce a little protection behind him, which you didn't have in the playoffs. And if Castellanos bounces back next year, good night. This team's going to be insane. So that's not a guarantee. I mean, Castellanos has to put in the work, and I think he will get better next year. But, yeah, you never know. And then you got JT, too. It's insane. And then you consider the young guys that we've brought in. We drafted Stott. Bohm has really developed. Those guys are going to get better. And Brandon Marsh, credit to Dombrowski, a trade that was very questionable in the moment, but it panned out. And we have a guy who can play center field very well and has a lot of potential. So this lineup is insane, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I keep thinking of today, because I'm sure every Phillies fan saw the news of Justin Verlander signing on the Mets. And I just think what an FU to the Mets, man. Imagine you sign an ace pitcher, definitely gonna just fill in for DeGrom. He's generally healthier than DeGrom, at least generally. I mean, I know Verlander's had some injury-filled past few years, but I mean, to just make a move like that on the same day as the Mets signing Verlander, it just feels so good. It feels so good. And also, I think one thing that really helps us too with the financial flexibility is, I mean, knock on wood, if Painter or Abel pan out in multiple years down the stretch, we will have the flexibility for them, hopefully, again, knock on wood, because Trey and Bryce are not eating up a frick ton of cap, and also I think, having the freedom and the mobility. Listen, would it be great if we got Rodon? Oh my gosh. I would I would literally say I don't think there's a team that could stop us if we got Rodon.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like we've got some guys in the pipe, I'm sure. And like, again, I love Reese, but if Reese's value is high enough and we could ship him at the deadline for another arm that could really help us, like our pitching be put over the edge for that, like that title, like we're scary. I mean, again, like you were saying, even just with the guys who were hitting last year, I won't even count Castellanos. I mean, you now have Bryce, who's going to come back midseason, but you have Bryce, you have Trey, you have Schwarber, you have even the guys at the bottom of the lineup, near the bottom of the lineup. You have Bohm, who's hitting really well. Stott's starting to find his groove. Marsh is really like not a guy, like he's not a guy you can exactly pitch around either. And when you look at this team, you're like, oh my gosh, our roster is like just so full. And then 2 years, like think about it, in 2 years, we might have like Andrew Painter or Mick Abel up here, and hopefully they pan out. It's like, you think about it, like it's crazy. Like it's not like, because like, with I'm not trying to blast the 2017 Eagles. This is not what I'm saying, but like, you look at it and you're like, the 2017 Eagles, they were a special team and we thought they were going to be a dynasty. But like our Phillies team is so young and we have so many guys on like longer term contracts. You're like, listen, I think, hope, pray, not again, knock on wood, that we will get that. We'll be right back there this year. But if not, it's not like it's just like, oh, our window's closed. Like,
yeah, right.
Like it doesn't feel like, I don't have that anxious feeling of like our window's closed if we don't get it done. Now it's kind of like we have some room to breathe. We want to get it done this year after what just happened to us. But
yeah,
it is kind of nice having that insurance of like, all right, we have young guys in the pipeline and we have our guys are in their primes and on long-term deals. They're going to be in their primes for at bare minimum, like another 3 to 4 years. Like, so it just feels really good.
Yeah. And I think Humble Philly fan says it best. Like, yeah, it's a long deal, but like you're not making that deal for the back half of the contract. You're making it for right now. You're getting this deal done so that you have Trey Turner here. Like you said, the bare minimum for the next 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. And that is your window. And like you said, like, look, we have other guys in the pipe. Like our farm system is improving. Who's to say we don't have other guys who are, come up in the next few years who are like, oh, now we have this new guy who's the next Andrew Painter who's ready to come up. Yeah. We don't even know about right now, but like we acquire within the next few years, something like that. Like we have a lot to look forward to. And, by the time that 5-year window is up, yeah, money's going to be tough. Like you're going to have some money tied up in some guys who are getting older and not necessarily producing as much at that point. But you also hope that the young guys at that point start to carry the load a little bit, and that you are able to make some new contracts. Look, Castellanos and Schwarber, those contracts aren't 11 years long. They're like, what, 4 or 5 years each?
I think both of them are 5 years, I think.
Yeah,
I think
so
Schwarber's
like you're
5 and Casty's 5.
Sure. Yeah. So like after those 4 or 5 years are up, like, yeah, you're still going to have Bryce and Trey here for a good bit longer, probably like more than half their, or probably like half their contracts are still going to be going on. But like you're still going to have that extra money freed up from Schwarber and Castellanos leaving to go do what you need to do in free agency moving forward.
Absolutely.
So, and you still have Nola here for a little bit, hopefully. Like you said, Painter, Ranger Suarez is still going to be here for a number of years. He's a dog in the making. He's already really good.
I think this year was like his I'm a threat type of year.
Yeah.
That's genuinely, that's the way I see him this year is like, no, he is a respectable third. He's a respectable number 3 at this point.
And you have, look, you don't know what's going to happen with Wheeler down the road. Like his contract could expire and then you could go out and get someone else who, is younger and is already ready to produce. So, I just love to keep Wheeler as long as we can. But I'm just saying, like, there are contracts that are going to come off the books in the future, right? So let's get to some of these comments, though, unless you had something to say off of that.
No, I think it was perfectly said.
Elite lineup, the deal will hurt down the road. AAV gives us more room for – absolutely. Yeah. Ross Stripling, mentioned him. Maybe something to do with Tigers pitching. Yeah, they have plenty of guys over there. This lineup is just – this lineup's nuts. Like, yeah. Again, if Marsh and Stott and Bohm like continue to improve too, like that bottom of the lineup helped us a ton last year, just getting to the playoffs. And in the playoffs, they did some big things too. So,
be unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris Bassett. That's another FU to the Mets. If we could steal him from their rotation and get him in here too. So a lot of people want Andrew Chafin as a reliever. He's been really good over the past few years. Good pickup for Phillies.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out Brandon Marsh too, man. I mean, a lot of us were wrong on that deal for sure. I mean, I think the lineup looks elite. I mean, I think it looks great. I think Bilotti is still here, but he's more of a low leverage reliever. I mean, he's not going to be like, I'm fine with him being here, to be honest. His team is either do you have a win prediction as of right now, Ian, or too early?
I don't, just because, I mean, I don't know. Bryce is out until like May or June, and I genuinely don't know. I think we definitely make the playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind we make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, actually that does, sorry, this is kind of a tangent, but it does bring to mind something that, like, I think I was saying to you earlier. I don't know if I said it privately or if it was on a live, but this is going to really help us in the meantime while Bryce is out with recovering from his Tommy Johns. Because now it's like we have that superstar back, and not that Schwarber was not playing out of his mind and being amazing, but it's like we have a high contact, like, guy who's going to get runs and like a really respectable hitter. And it just feels nice that like there is going to be a guy that, like, granted, he's not going to have the pop or power that Bryce has, but also like he is a guy that like is going to kind of make you afraid. It's going to make pitchers afraid a little bit. And it just feels really good that like he's going to be able to carry some of the, like, it's not going to be, Bryce's void will not be as apparent as it was before this deal, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I think that's a great point, because you're going to need some guys to produce while in his absence, and you knew one of the shortstops was going to help with that. But now that it's actually done, you can kind of look forward to like, all right, well, Trey Turner he's a freak athlete and he can hit for power. Like the power numbers he puts up with his speed is just an insane combo. And he's like, he didn't have the best year defensively last year. He hasn't been as good as he was in Washington, but he's still a solid defensive player. Like, you know what you're going to get from him. And his speed's going to make some defensive plays at some points anyway. Just getting the balls in the middle. I know reaction time is part of it, but that's something you can really rely upon. And again, like, he gets on base, he's a threat to score every single time, which is just huge. Like, how many times did the Astros get so many weak hits in that World Series? Like, like they just made contact. We struck out and they were making contact and the ball was finding grass. And that's something that you get with Trey Turner is, while he might not have like the best plate discipline, he's going to poke the ball and be able to get some hits here and there. Just because him putting the ball in play, there's a chance if it's on the ground, there's a good chance he can make it to first base every single time.
Yeah.
So,
he's like what we hoped Roman Quinn would be, pretty much. Except he actually works out.
It's like if Roman Quinn was like a complete baseball player, played shortstop, like what it would be. So, and it is interesting. Like we had, it sounded like we were going to schedule meetings with like the 4 other shortstops too, with Bogaerts, Swanson, and Correa. But I guess they just wanted to get the deal. I mean, we all knew they wanted Trey, and Trey wanted to come here. Like, I guess they just wanted to get the deal done.
So. Yeah, I mean, why dawdle on it? Like, why waste time if he's willing to make a deal?
Maybe they did have meetings. I don't know. I did see an article that is just like hypothetical. Like, if we didn't get any of the shortstops, like, or if we didn't get any of the top, like, the article was making the point that it was a top 3. Like, it was either Turner, Bogaerts, or Correa, and if you get to the point where you're considering Swanson, you just bring Gene back. That's what the point of the article was. So interesting there, but excitement about Turner. Yeah. I don't know. It sounded like Apple might. I didn't hear for sure, but it sounded like maybe he was going to hang him up after finally making the majors. We'll see though. Phillies been in big. Oh my gosh, we already read that comment. Andy Painter, he's going to be good, man. He's going to be really, really.
Do you think he comes up this year?
So that's a good question. A lot of people have been debating that. I think there's definitely a chance, just because, look, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't rush him. Like, he needs his time in the minors. I'm like, well, I don't think that this is the old Phillies front office that would just rush him up, right? Like, I think they're going to know when the time's right. That for one. I trust this front office with their decision-making on that. Yeah. 2, I mean, when you have a guy who's pitching that well, like, sometimes they just rapidly move through the minor leagues. Like, look, Aaron Nola, like, when he came up, I think he came up like a year after he got drafted, maybe. Granted, he was coming out of college, so a little bit different, but like, there's definitely a possibility Painter comes up like later next year. Now, do I need that to happen? No, I don't need it to happen, because look, he's going to be the 5th starter, and like, it's not a guarantee he pitches as a start in the playoffs. Granted, I think if he can pitch well enough, like I think he'd be a pretty insane bullpen arm to have in the playoffs. Like that'd be nuts if he was one of our bullpen guys in the playoffs. But I do think there's a chance. That being said, I don't think he has to come up this year. Like I'm not upset if he doesn't. I'm fine if we wait a year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I think I loved what you said where it was like, I mean, he is just moving through the minors, and it's kind of like, my thought process is like, obviously you want him to develop and you don't want to rush him. But it's like, if he's just completely cruising like he is now, where it's just like, why would you waste that time? That kind of thing. Not now, obviously, if he starts to hit a snag and like, what is he in Double-A now? I think he just started.
I think he just started Double-A.
He's a snag in like Double-A, whether he or like Triple-A. Obviously, you want to give him that time to adjust, which I'm sure he will. I mean, he's an insane pitcher, but I think like you said, I think we don't really need him. It's not like Wheeler's on the last year of his deal and we need another guy to come up kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm fine with like, even if it doesn't happen this year, like, is there any word on Mick Abel? Cause I know he was kind of like,
Abel's definitely progressing. He's progressing a little bit slower for sure. So I think he's still in Jersey Shore from that. Maybe he got called up. I'm not sure. Let me check.
Cause I know he was another guy that people were like, yeah, he could be.
It'll probably be a little more time before he's up compared to Painter. I'll say that. Just because Painter.
I mean, he's only 21 too. He's literally our age. Like,
yeah. Painter's it's insane. Painter got drafted a year after Abel, and now we're already talking about him possibly coming up next year, which just shows like how well he has done and how much people believe in him. But Abel ended in Double-A as well. Or yes, so he ended in Double-A. So
so he's moving up.
Yeah. So let's see what else. Yeah, for sure. Preston Mattingly has done it. Yeah, great. And there's been a lot of changes in the front office that have helped with the minor league development for sure. Don't get me going on Ranger. Yeah, he's been awesome, man. He's been awesome. What is your guys' lineup? I mean, I think mine. Look, this isn't my lineup. I'm realistic, so I'm going to go off of what I think the lineup's going to be. Trey Turner, Rhys Hoskins. Again, I know that's going to upset some people, but I think that's the reality. I think Rhys Hoskins is going to hit too, and I honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards the point where I think he's probably going to be here all next year, whether we like it or not. Just because like you're not going to get the same power numbers from Boom at first base, and you could bring Gene back, but again, that unfortunately what Rhys does provide, and though he's streaky, like the power numbers he does provide and the hot streaks he does provide, ultimately end up leading to a decent number of wins compared to like bringing in more of a utility guy. So I think he's probably going to stick around here. So Turner, Hoskins, and then I'd probably say I'd probably go Bryce 3. I think it's just nice to have that, have him with runners in scoring position. And then you have, you don't have to worry about like, oh, he might not get up to bat this inning, right? With runners on base. And, you get him at 3. Maybe he bats 4, but him and Schwarber 3 and 4 in some order. And then I think JT probably hits 5th, Castellanos 6th, and I think Bohm 7, Stott 8, and Marsh 9 most likely. Maybe Stott hits, maybe they alternate those guys depending on where it is, but they'll figure it out by the time playoffs come. So that's my expectation. I don't know if you had anything different, but
no, I mean that's like the same as what I would have had. I think you flip flop. I think you could say you could flip flop Schwarber and Bryce depending upon just who's more comfortable hitting where. And
sure,
same with Marsh and Stott. I mean, you can
whatever the comfortability level is for all those guys. Yeah. So he wore 6 in LA. I think he wore 7 in Washington. So 6, I'm guessing Ryan Howard will get retired at some point. So I don't know if they'll let him wear that
6.
number.
He's probably not 6.
So probably 7 because I think Camargo wore 7 last year. So that's probably up for grabs. Tariq Skubal, that's a good pitcher we could definitely grab. Did get hurt last year though. So while he's young, that's definitely something to consider. Bassett or Rodon. I would definitely take Bassett. I mean, Bassett was really solid for the Mets last year. I think he'd be a good 3 or 4 pitcher for us. That'd be huge. McGarry could come up as well. Yeah, that's another Griff McGarry, like really, really good pitching prospect as well. I believe he ended in Double-A, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another guy who could potentially come up. When we had issues with the rotation going into the deadline, some people were talking about maybe calling him up to fill that last spot. So it tells you what people think about him. And yeah, sure, maybe Bryce does hit statistically better at 4. But if I'm the manager and he tells me he wants to hit third, then I'm going to put him third. So.
If I'm Philly Rob, I'm going to be like, yeah, if you hit where you want, Bryce, I don't care.
Yeah. How about our boy Phil Gallinall with the little tidbit drop here?
Oh,
Carlos Rodon and Trey Turner were college teammates. You don't say, Phil.
Wow.
Well,
I did not know that.
That is certainly that's something to keep an eye on. We might be pushing that narrative a little bit here on the Philly Insider podcast. So that's good to know. Wow. NC State, I'm guessing, Phil. Did you say something, Ian?
No, I'm looking it up. What college you went to?
I think it's NC State. Someone says, as much as I love Schwarby, got to lead off Trey, in my opinion.
NC State. You're right.
Nice. Brennan says, welcome in, Brennan. Welcome in to everyone, too. Thanks for dropping in. Stream's kind of popping off right now. I appreciate you guys. Brennan says, as much as I love Schwarber, got to lead off Trey, in my opinion. I agree. I agree for sure. I think that's the better option.
You can't lead off.
A stat I'd love to know how many. Yeah, he had a lot of Schwarber had a lot of solo home runs this year. So I like Bassett, but he has a qualifying offer, and we just signed Turner. Yeah, we'll see though. We'll see. I'm
assuming the qualifying offer's from the Mets, right?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, we shall see. How many college Schwarber home runs were on the first pitch? I feel like it was a lot this year. Definitely a lot.
We need Hoagie Fest all season round.
Yeah, for real.
We need it all season round.
Gotta wonder if Johan Rojas isn't. I think he will be. I mean, I don't. I'll be honest. Like, look, I like Rojas as a prospect, but I don't necessarily see a future for him here in Philadelphia long term. And I still think he's got some things to work on in terms of. I think he got hot last year a little bit, but I don't know if like his hot streaks are sustainable. So, yeah, I think he's still got some things to work on in terms of hitting. But and look, we're kind of at that point now where I don't want to say we're like a Dodgers or like an Astros yet, because we're not. We're not a Dodgers or Astros. Mm-hmm. We don't have the player development of like a Rays or an Athletics yet. We're still getting there. But we're getting into that territory where if you keep like building up all these good prospects, you're just going to trade them away for the most part. Like, yeah, some of them you'll keep and bring up if you have a spot for them on the major league roster. But like these are, guys like Rojas they're going to be used for players at the deadline who are going to help us in our pursuit of the World Series. Like you said, Ian, our window is not just this year. Like our window is the next 3, 4, 5 seasons if all goes well. And I think it will be. Yeah. So, that's the nice luxury you have if you continue to like develop this farm system further, is that you're going to be able to just trade these guys for deadline acquisitions. So.
Oh yeah. I think it was, now I'm trying to remember what you said. Shoot. Oh yeah. You were like, we're going to add more guys too. Like as this time goes on. I mean, Dombrowski has been amazing in the war room when it comes to drafting. I mean, seriously, it seems like he just hasn't missed yet. I mean, knock on wood, but like,
sure,
this guy is just picking like just stellar prospect after stellar prospect. And I mean, even though we dogged on him for the Marsh trade, I mean, look at him now. I mean, we're all like sitting here going, we were wrong. Like we were dead wrong. He really, that was a trade that we needed. And Marsh really helped us get in the playoffs, and he helped us in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In big moments as a young kid.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, it's a really exciting, like, not just today, but I'm saying for the next, like, like you were saying, 3, 4, 5 years, it is a really exciting time to be a Phillies fan. It is.
Yeah.
And shout out to Dombrowski too. I mean, literally does this. Man gets extended, and then not even a week or two ago, and he gets a step worth every penny of that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. To our credit, I will say, by the end of that day, I think a lot of us did talk ourselves into the Marsh trade, but I still think there was some like concern about. We'll see how this pans out. And granted, Logan O'Hoppe did look pretty good in the Angels organization this year. So that is something you gotta. I'll personally be keeping tabs on that a little bit because I did like O'Hoppe, but at the same time, you have JT for a number of years already. Like, there wasn't really room, and moving JT to first isn't necessarily just like that quick solution, right? Like, you're not just going to move him to first and expect him to put up the power numbers that Reese does. I mean, his production is as good as it is. Like, yeah, JT is like a really solid hitter, but part of it's also that he's like, other catchers in the league, positional value comes into that because there's not a lot of other catchers who hit that way because of the wear and tear that the defensive side of the base or the diamond takes on them. So the fact that JT is as good of a hitter as he is and as a catcher is something special. So, but anyway, like, yeah, I think Dombrowski kind of has a reputation to sell the farm away and leave you with nothing pretty much. I think Tigers and Red Sox fans have attested to that a number of times. But I think, look, so far, our farm, maybe it's just because our farm system was crap before he got here and before all his staff got here, right? That could definitely be part of it. But I think that, while he's only drafted once or twice, like it's been like the returns have been pretty solid so far. I also think that the guys we already had in the organization are taking strides they were not taking before the new staff came in. So I think that's something that definitely needs to be taken note of, is that maybe we do have something here and maybe we don't have to be as, as protective over some of these prospects. Now, granted, Abel and Painter, I'd prefer to really keep around, Painter especially. But, you don't have to be as protective of all your prospects now, because it's not like, oh, if this guy doesn't pan out, we're pretty much screwed. It's not like the days where it's like, oh man, well, we've got, Ben or what is his name? Thompson, Jake Thompson coming up from the Rangers, who's going to be really good. We also got Nick Williams in that trade. We got Jorge Alfaro. Like, no, like, you don't worry about, like, that's not your future anymore. Like, thankfully, like, you don't have to rely upon those types of guys produce for you. And you don't have guys like Michael Franco and, all these other names just like not progressing in the slightest after they get hot for like 1 year, like you actually have some hope here. And like, you don't have to be protective over these prospects anymore, like we are so accustomed to being over the years. So yeah, it's a good feeling. I do not know the number of solo homers for or for Schwarber. So we will hopefully someone can figure that out. But yeah, we have a ton of outfielders in the minors too. Like you said, Muzziotti, who was on the 40-man last year. That's a guy who might, I believe. So with him, his visa, there was something with his visa, I think, during COVID when he went back home that like he couldn't come over. So like he honestly like missed a year or two of development. So there might be teams that are like, well, he's still got like, we could still see we can develop him a little bit. Like there's still some potential there. Like he's nowhere near to reaching his ceiling yet. I'm not saying he's going to be like an elite baseball player, like a center fielder or anything, but like there's definitely reason for like a team looking for young prospects to trade for him. So, and then Rojas and Jalen Ortiz, infamous guy who was signed the same year in the international signing period as Acuna and Soto, unfortunately, but he has been playing pretty well in the minors. So maybe that's another guy you can trade too. Bassett and Chafin, we talked about them a little bit. Ben says Dombrowski is a Hall of Famer. Interesting. I honestly can't speak on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. I can't speak on that either. All I can say is I'm very happy that he's our guy. But yeah,
this is an interesting question. Correa versus Turner, who's best in the long run too? So I'll go first. Look, Trey was the guy I wanted. That was my top choice. Bogarts was a very close second for me, and then I hate Carlos Correa, so he was a very distant third for me. Now, if it was just in terms of talent, he probably was a pretty close third for me. But I also think that, like, look, I think he's got a good arm on the defensive side. I think he's probably the better defensive option out of those three. But he, maybe part of this was that he's playing with the Twins. I didn't think he hit as well last year. I still think he is a really, really good hitter, and he's coming into his prime right now. But I really do think that with the way our lineup is set up right now, I think for us, it just made more sense to go after Trey Turner to set the table for the top of that lineup and get on base for the rest of these guys to knock him in, right? Like, granted, now Correa would have been like a great addition in the middle of the lineup with all those power guys. But at the same time, I think the consensus was that, while Schwarber was great in the leadoff role and just seeing a lot of pitches and, obviously getting us on the board earlier or just getting on base a decent bit, I think the consensus was that you needed more of a guy like Trey Turner to lead off and set the table for you. And I personally think Trey Turner's more of the full package than Correa. Now, you could argue from defensive perspective, maybe Correa has him there, but I don't know. I also just can't stand that guy. So I'm very happy we ended up with Trey Turner and not Carlos Correa. So, yeah.
So for me, it was a bit of the opposite, mainly because I'm biased, and I will admit that. I know Trey is the best one. Like, he's the best shortstop available. But I wanted X-Man. I love
I thought you were
him.
going to say something about Correa.
No. Correa was third on my list. And quite honestly, I would have been, not going to lie, I think there's like, I don't want to say a huge gap, but I think there's like Trey and X-Man are like the top two.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I think there's a little gap. And then I think there's Correa. I just don't think Correa is as solid of a hitter. I think we needed guys who are going to put the ball in play. So like a Trey or an X-Man.
Yes.
I'm biased towards X-Man because I followed the Red Sox for a while. I loved them like through most of his career. So I was a little biased, but obviously like I'm going to say like screw X-Man. I love Trey, love Trey more now because he's on the Phillies. Like it's just how it is. But yeah, I would say Correa was third, and I genuinely would have been slightly disappointed if we signed Correa. That's just me being a spoiled, rotten brat, but yeah.
Yeah. Not as bad as the consolation prize in Dansby Swanson that it would have been, but
no. Dansby, you're just kind of like upset. You're like, well, we got one, but I'm not happy about it. Like,
we got defense at least, but
yeah,
you're relying on a big upturn in offensive production from him if you're signing him to a big deal like that. But I also really like Bogarts, and I do hope he goes to a team where I can root for him still. Like I really do like him. Like if he goes to a team that we're going to be competing with for the title in the NL, I'll be pretty upset. So I do wish him the best.
Dodgers just retool with X-Man.
They might, man. There's some people who think that might actually happen. So, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like the Red Sox are anywhere near getting him back right now. So
no, I think he wants to win. He doesn't want
sure.
He doesn't want to be stuck in Boston. I can't say
no. So that's going to be interesting. But I hate Correa too, even outside of cheating. He's just so arrogant. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him. I'll say this. I don't think this affects Edmundo Sosa in the slightest. That's my opinion on it. Look, I think.
Love it.
So now you lost Gene Segura now. Gene Segura is not going to be a Philadelphia Philly anymore, which granted, does that hurt my heart a little bit? Yeah, it does. I have a Segura jersey in my closet over there. I didn't wear it to this. I wore the Bryce one because he's friends with Trey. Like, it does hurt. Like, I can't lie. Like, while I knew it was best for the organization and that I knew it was going to happen, the day that we declined Gene's option and it was like pretty much, set in stone that we weren't going to bring him back. Like, those were a tough couple of days. I was just like kind of shocked that he wasn't going to be a Philadelphia Philly anymore. Now, with that being said, I also knew that I would be sitting here doing this live stream at some point down the road, and that I was going to be on cloud 9 after we got Trey Turner. So, but my point being, yeah, exactly. My point being with all of that is you already lost Gene in the middle infield, and then you replace him with Trey. Like, there's not like one less spot in the middle infield. Like, Sosa's a utility player. He's a backup. Like, there's no reason necessarily to move him. Now, would I be willing to move him if it meant like him being part of a package to get, a pitcher that would help us? Yeah, sure. Like I'm not tied to Edmundo Sosa, but like you don't necessarily need to look to move him, in my opinion.
I will. I'm not gonna lie. That one will hurt me a little bit if we let go of him.
I do love Sosa, but he's young, so like he's still on a rookie deal. Like we still have him under control for like 4 years, I think. So you have like let's look at like the infield right now. You have Hoskins. I know this is gonna upset some people. Like you still have Hoskins at first. You have Stott's going to play second now, and this is also something we didn't mention. That Stott was really, really amazing at second base defensively this past season. Like I think people are like, "Oh, he's so good at shortstop." Though it's like, well, yeah, but like he was actually even better at second base. Now, some people have raised the question of like, well, do you play Stott at shortstop and then Turner's played second for the Dodgers for 1 year before? Do you play him at second? I wouldn't be opposed to that. Like, look, Trey Turner played pretty well at second base, and I honestly look, Do I think Bryson Stott's a better shortstop than Trey Turner is in terms of defense? I might say that. I don't think I think it's a marginal difference. But I also think, do I think Bryson Stott's a better second baseman than Trey Turner? Yeah, probably. So I'd probably keep Trey Turner at short. Granted, do I care which position they play? No, I really don't, as long as they're both comfortable. But my point being, you're going to have those two in the middle infield. That's 3. And then you have Bohm at third. And then who are your backups? I mean, you have Sosa? Like Sosa.
Sosa's perfect in just that situation. You're up by a run or two. You need the defense, and you throw him in for
Bohm. You put him in for Bohm. Yeah,
throw him in third. Like that's not gonna, because that was what we did in the playoffs. I mean, if we had the lead, we would throw, and it was like top of the ninth or something like that at home or bottom of the ninth away, and we had a lead, Sosa would come in for Bohm. And it was, I mean, it worked well. Sosa knows how to feel the baseball.
And he does it very, very well. And also you can give Trey Turner a day of rest. You can give Bryson Stott a day of rest. Like, he can move around the infield. He can even play a little bit of corner outfield. Probably won't play much out there just because we have other backup outfielders.
Oh,
but my point being, like, he's really the only backup infielder on the roster right now. Like, Vierling can come in and play a little bit in the infield. He probably will at some points. Like Maton is definitely another guy you can put in the infield there. But like, Sosa's your best option. And I'm not sure if he's going to hit like he did down the stretch last year. That seemed to me like kind of a one-off. Like, I don't think he's going to hit that well this upcoming year. But I do think that you look at what happened with Marsh, he got progressively better than he was with the Angels. And Sosa, a guy who struck out a lot, really didn't get on base very much, had poor play discipline. He comes to the Phillies. It wasn't like tremendously better, but with a full offseason, you might see more of those results from the end of last year. So I still think Sosa's going to be on the roster. I don't think we can get much for him unless he's in a package, unless some other team thinks that he could be a starter there. Like, I think he's also, he's 26 years old. Like, he's still young, but like, he's not like a 23, 24-year-old like prospect or anything, right? Like, he's a utility guy. And I think we know that is his role. I think he knows that's his role. And I think he's going to fulfill that role. And I think that he's a guy who needs to be here next year when we're contending as that backup utility guy, unless you can find an upgrade somewhere. But I credit Tom Browski for, that was not a move anyone saw coming at all. It's not a move that anyone necessarily cared about when it happened, when we traded for Sosa, when we traded Jojo Romero for him. I don't think anyone cared about that move. And it ended up actually paying big dividends. It paid dividends for us. And wouldn't you know, Sosa made the final catch in the wild card to send us to the next round against his former team in the Cardinals, which is pretty awesome for him. So, my point being, I don't think we're
when he ran home on that one, or when he ran home and like slid in and all of Philly lost their minds.
He's awesome. I don't think we have to worry about him going anywhere. So, that's my long. I don't know if you had anything to answer. I took a lot of time on that one.
No, all I was gonna say is I'm not gonna lie, I'd be feeling some heartache if Sosa were a part of a package. That would sting. I'd feel that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Dombrowski isn't done yet. With that being said, do you think he'll get some pitching and relief pitchers? First off, yes, Troy. I do remember you were there when I made the video on Edmundo Sosa when we traded for him. I didn't know much about him, but I did some quick research and got a video out. I remember you were there, Troy. Credit to you. Also, guys, 250 views on this live stream so far. Thank you guys a ton.
Wow.
So we haven't even been going live for an hour. We appreciate you guys for all the support. Yeah. But it's because Ian's on here. They always do better when Ian's on the live stream.
Oh, you're too kind. Too kind.
Dombrowski isn't done yet. With that being said, do you think he'll get some pitching and relief pitchers? Yeah, we kind of talked about that a good bit.
Yeah.
I think that'll happen. So some of the names that have come up, I know Troy mentioned Bassett has a qualifying offer from the Mets. We'll see what happens with that. If Bassett becomes available, I would definitely love to have him in the rotation. I think Tyone is someone who's been linked to the Phillies like by the same guy. I think it was Mark Feinstein. I think it was. I don't know how to say his last name. He linked us to Tyone more than once now. So, and there's other teams who are in on him too. It's not a guarantee, but there's a lot of talk on the market that teams are very impressed with Tyone's pitching intelligence and how he approaches hitters just from the Zoom meetings that they've had with him. So that's definitely driving up his market a little bit. We'll see what happens with that. I think Tyone is definitely a guy who's on the table. Rodon, I think, is kind of like a reach, but I think that the Turner deal makes him less of a reach candidate. I do think we could get Rodon. I mean, look, our guy Phil Gallinall came in here earlier and said that he was a teammate of Trey Turner in college. So maybe that gets Rodon to come here. I don't know how close they are. I also know the Phillies, we all know the Phillies were interested in Rodon at the deadline. We remember that on deadline day. There was a lot of talk about that happening, but because of the potential opt-out and stuff like that, the Phillies didn't want to take the chance, which was understandable. They didn't want to overpay for a guy they didn't know if he was going to be here next year or not. But I think Rodon's not a high possibility, but I could see us being in on him. Those are some of the names. Ross Stripling's been brought up, but look, we've addressed this a number of times already. Guido Falcon, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. He says there's a really bad contract. Turner is not worth $300 million. Again, you don't pay for the back half of that. Yes, you do pay for the back half of the contract, but like you're paying for the first 5 years of that deal. And also it's over 11 years. People are expecting this deal to be in the 30 to 37 million range around, median median or mean ended up being around like 33, 34 million among like all the reporters I saw. The highest I saw was 37. The lowest I saw was 30. I don't think anyone saw 27 million a year coming. So this actually, yes, 300 million is a lot of money, but it saves us a lot of money over the year, so we can still go out and get other guys. And we have other expiring contracts, so we're still going to have freedom to make the moves we need to. And we have prospects in the farm system that we can deal for guys we want to get at the deadline. Like, this doesn't handicap us by any means. So yeah, 300 million looks like a lot, but when you look at the contract and you look at the Phillies' current situation, it makes complete sense. So.
And also, I think to add to that too, I mean, like, Trey is a top tier baseball player.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I mean, he is a high production, high contact guy who not known for his power, but he can hit for some power.
Absolutely.
He drives in runs. Like, he is a very high end baseball player. So, like, 300 million, well, yeah, it might kind of be a little much, like, over 11 years. Like, one, the AAV is incredible. And two, when you really look at it, you're like, he might be around there, like 280, 290. I'm like, so I think personally, I think it's a great deal.
Didn't you say that Alex Carr said it ended up being less than Bryce's AAV as well?
It is literally, I think it's 27.3 million. So even like Hunter, you were saying, it is 3 million less than the low end of what he could have gotten.
Yes.
So this is a really, really, really good deal. Like,
this is. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. Because I keep up with Spot Rack a good bit, which if you go on there and like look at all the free agents, it always shows the market value on all the free agents. And the Eflin deal, they were like right on the money. They said like 13.7 mil a year. Eflin ended up getting like 13.3 mil a year. And people were saying that Eflin got overpaid, blah blah blah. He still got around the AAV. He was expecting 3 years for guys injured a decent bit. It might be a little bit much, but again, an organization like the Rays, if you're going to figure it out somewhere, that's where he's going to figure it out. And they don't just take chances on anyone. Like, everyone said the Charlie Morton deal wasn't that great for them, and I believe Charlie Morton, that's where he really turned things around. And now he's had a tremendous back half of his career, probably better than his first half of his career. So, but anyway, my point being, you look at the Trey Turner deal. Like, look again. Also, this is the point I was going to get to. Bryce got 333 million back in what we were seniors. So like 2018, 2019 that we signed him. It's been 3 years since then. And obviously COVID, money was a little bit different during COVID, but market value just continues to go up. Like, we're getting Trey for 300 million compared to the 330 million we paid Bryce for. Consider Bryce's contract continue to become less and less valuable. Yeah, it's still one of the top contracts in baseball, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's like what, top 15, top 20 now in terms of AAV or something like Bryce's? That. Yeah, like it's not.
I think it literally fell out of the top 20 recently.
Yeah, so it's not even.
I mean, Bryce literally, like, as the deal goes on, because I'm pretty sure Bryce. I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was when pitcher for the Yankees, Garrett Cole. When Garrett Cole signed with the Yankees, that was actually what knocked Bryce's AAV out of the top 10. And I can double check that, but I don't even think he's top 20 anymore.
It's very possible. So I just wanted to mention that. Like, I don't think it's really that like drastic of an issue, to be honest. And honestly, I thought Xander Bogaerts would sign for like 29 million, if I'm being honest. That's where a lot of people were saying he would be around. I thought Xander Bogaerts was going to be around that range. And we got Trey for 27 million a year. To me, that's just insane. It's insane that we.
Okay, so Bryce's contract in terms of AAV, not even in the top 20 anymore.
Yeah.
It's Manny Machado, Jake DeGrom, Altuve, Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw. David Price has a higher AAV than Bryce right now. Miguel Cabrera, Corey Seager, Verlander, Arenado, Bauer, Lindor, Greinke. Like, he's not even in the top. Not even in the top 20.
Yeah, I think Greinke's that
might have expired. It's a little bit of an old article.
Because I think he's getting paid like 14 million now. But point being, though, I mean, I'm sure there's other guys who have surpassed him and will surpass. I mean, Trey just surpassed him. So, yeah. I mean, again, I think it shows how much Trey wants to be here. I think it shows he wants to win. I think it shows he wants to be with Bryce and wants to be with his best buddy and play on the same field as his best buddy and hit in the same lineup as his best buddy. So, yeah, I guess, we're coming up on an hour here. Like, I have two questions for you. One, do you work, like we talked about this a little bit earlier, do you worry about, like, again, like I said, there are expiring contracts, but 11, 13 years for both these guys is a long time. And, like, do you worry about, like, I know it's not the same as what happened in 2011 when all the guys started, or after 2011 when, we spent 3 years trying to still win with a core that was just continually regressing. Do you have any concerns about that in terms of, like, Bryce and Trey, being here for so long and just, like, having that money tied up into them when they're like real, like, it is going to be a weird feeling, Ian, when we're sitting here and how old will we? We'll probably be like 30 if we're still sitting here doing this.
I mean, Lord willing, I'll be a doctor by then. So,
we're sitting here
crazy.
Maybe sitting here at 30 years old, which it'll be crazy to look back on this podcast. And then if we are sitting here at that point, when they're like 40 years old, do you worry at all about that? And then I have another question for you.
I'm going to say no. And here's why. Because one, I think that, and this is just the case, this is a blanket sports statement that I've just been seeing across all sports. I think primes, like an athlete's prime has just been extended immensely. Like the way that these athletes take care of their bodies. I mean, look at Justin Verlander. He is still a top whatever pitcher, and he's 37 years old. Like he's a top, like I think you can make the argument he is a top 5, top 10 pitcher, definitely top 10. And he's 37 years old. Like, come on. Like, there are, and I think, not to say that I think, obviously Bryce hits and he, Bryce's job and Trey's jobs are more physically demanding. But I think when you look at it, you're like, I think these guys' primes are going to last longer than we probably think they will, just with the advances in medicine and in sports science and everything else and how we take care of our bodies, which obviously Bryce, like, very much takes care of his body. And, like, so does, I think Trey does too. I think he's also, like, big into the health and wellness as well. Point being is I think their primes are going to be extended. So I think that period of, like, quote unquote dead weight, so to speak, where it's like kind of like what the Angels had with Pujols, where it was like, oh, this is just terrible. Like, I don't think that's going to be too long. And also, I guess I have 3 points really, because my next point would be the AAVs comparatively are going to just keep, like, Bryce is already not in the top 20. I think we're in the third year of his, or fourth year. Yeah. Or we finished the fourth year. We finished the fourth year of his 13-year deal. And he's already not even top 20 in AAV. Yeah. Not
inflation,
even there.
Inflation is real. So
yeah. And it's like, you look at it and you're like, I guarantee you in another 2 years, 3 years, when, like, for example, like when Sandy Alcantara deserves a contract.
Oh, good Lord. Good night.
When you see, like, Sandy Alcantara or Shohei, like, when you see these guys and they're going to be garnering more and more and more money, I guarantee in 2-3 years that Bryce deal is going to look like nothing. Literally nothing. Like, we're going to be sitting, and even Trey, I think in like 3 years, we'll be looking at Trey's deal. We'll be like, oh my gosh, that's nothing compared to what Shohei is making right now or what Sandy Alcantara is making right now, So I would say I really don't think we're going to have that point, because I think what we're going to pay them comparatively is just going to keep going down. And additionally, I think Bryce, I don't know Trey as a person too well, obviously, because Bryce is my favorite athlete, so I just follow him a lot more closely. Bryce just seems like the guy who, like, I feel like he's going to know when he's past the sell-by date, and I think he would just hang it up. I don't think Bryce is a guy that wants to just keep going for, I don't think he wants to keep going when he knows he's not what he used to be, kind of thing. And I think Bryce would definitely hang it up before we get to the point where he's like, man, this guy just stinks now. Like, and hopefully not hopefully. I mean, I think already if he were to retire tomorrow, I think we consider him a Philadelphia legend. But hopefully, prayerfully, knock on wood, like he'll have a couple rings for us, and we'll be like, hey, you know what? This guy can stay on the Phillies till he dies. I mean, he brought us So,
Yeah.
And again, I don't know Trey, but I would hope and think that it's the same. So,
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
I mean, even now, I was just going to say off of that, like even now, like I know he didn't win the World Series, but that Bryce home run in the NLCS, that's going to live on in our hearts forever. Like I thought if we didn't go on to win the World Series, that would kind of be forgotten. Like a lot of the moments be forgotten. But I think me personally, and I think a lot of Phillies fans I've seen, and this is a little side note, I feel like a lot of people have it's really impressed me just how many people, and myself included, have been able to look back on this past season as just like a good foundation to build off of, and just like a year where that was just like memories we won't forget, right? Like a lot of times, like, look, that Sixers, the way the Sixers seasons you always forget because of the way they lose is just gut wrenching, and they never make it to where they're supposed to make it.
They're
Phillies,
always underwhelming. They're consistently underwhelming.
Exactly. The Phillies made it to where that, a place where no one thought they would be. People thought they might have blown that wild card lead to the Brewers at the end of the year, for one, because they always tend to do that. And then people thought, maybe we get out of the wild card round.
And by the way, we were happy to just get in the wild card.
Yeah.
We were over the moon. We were like, oh, we made it to the wild card. We're fine. Like,
right.
We're getting there.
When we went down 2-0 in that first game, yes, I was very upset. I was ticked, but I was like, we go into that ninth inning and, we get one out. And I'm thinking, like, my thoughts are just like, all right, I guess and I know this was only game one. There could have been, maybe we would have won game two, even if we lost game one. But I was thinking, well, I better start getting like the season, season and reviews ready for all the Phillies players. Like, better start getting my Trey Turner video ready. And they score 6 runs in that inning. And then everything from there, like, outside of the last few games of the World Series, everything just kind of built off of that. So my point being by saying that is, I think it's really cool to just see, like, that Bryce moment will still live on forever. Those moments from this this World Series run, regardless of the result, they're going to live on forever. And now we have even more memories to make, and we have more to accomplish, and we have a long way to go to get there. But boy, I really think we have a good shot at getting back there now. So with that, back to the question. Yeah, 11 years is a long time, and 13 years is a long time for Bryce. Granted, we're, we got 9 years left with Bryce now.
I think
so
9.
Yeah. So, those guys are going to be together for a long time. I think again, you're trying to win now, and you're trying to compete right now. And, Trey Turner's still here at 35, and he's not, again, that's the one risk, is that with his game so predicated on his athleticism, and granted, he can hit for power, and like he can do other stuff outside of his athleticism, but that being a big part of his game, you do have a lot of risk there for when he gets older and isn't the same guy, right? But you don't worry about that right now. You worry about trying to win a World Series in 2023 or 2024 or 2025 or 2026 or 2027. If we get to that point, we'll probably be saying that's like the last, that or 2028 is like the last.
Yeah, then we'll say the window is closing. If we don't get a ring in any of those years, that's when we're like, the window is closing.
And that's when you start to panic a little bit. So, but right now, you do this deal 10 times out of 10, no matter what. So
I agree.
That's my thoughts. Let's get to some of these comments real quick. Apparently, if you're heading inside the park against the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park, you're a bound to one day player for the Phillies. Real Muto and Turner. That is funny. Let's go. We got Trey. What's up, Johnny? Trey and Bias AAV will look like average play.
Actually,
And like different sport, but I think this is a good comparison. Remember when we signed Carson Wentz and everyone, it was a big deal, and like everyone was like, it's a lot of money to give the guy coming off of a torn ACL, right?
Yeah.
Then like a few years later, it was still a big contract a few years later, but it's nowhere near what Jalen Hurts might get after this year, like, or what other guys are getting right now, right? So, and it's, and again, I know it's a different sport, but we already talked about some of the examples in baseball. Like we already see it with Bryce. I mean, it's not that large of a contract anymore. So yeah, at the time, but like you sign a guy for that long, that's the one benefit you're going to get is like, money's always going to increase. There's always going to be inflation. So Yeah. Great signing. I can't wait to see one of those patented Trey Turner slides.
Oh,
Phillies.
yeah.
That is going to be awesome. I'm excited for that first slide into home plate from him for sure. Not against us this time either. It'll be for us. So pretty awesome. Andrew Coates popping in. Welcome. We got him. But
yeah, we did.
My last thing I wanted to ask you is just like, before we wrap up here, we're on an hour now. Like, we talked a lot about ring. Like, what are your expectations for the Phillies moving forward in free agency this year? And how do you expect them to perform considering that in the grand scheme of things? Like, do you think that if you don't want to jinx anything, like, don't worry. But like, do you think we will get a ring at some point with this roster? Like, how do you feel about the long-term outlook and the short-term outlook of this team?
I personally, I think we definitely. Well, I don't want to say definitely, but I
good save. That was close.
I strongly believe that it is highly possible that we get a ring. I mean, I look around the MLB genuinely today, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know who can beat us now. Granted, and now I say that with the caveat of, and kind of to get into the second part of your question, we do need another pitcher. Like that much is true. However, I do think that, and granted, I don't want to while that fact about them playing in the same college is awesome, Rodon and Trey, like that's awesome. And it gets my hopes up. I don't want to put any stock in it, but that being said, I'm like, if we can just get sorry, it's something in my throat. If we could just get like a 4 or 5 guy in the rotation, that's all we need. Because listen, Nola clearly had some sort of comeback, like wake up. I'm still a threat type of year. Wheeler's Wheeler. We know what he is. He's like perennial Cy Young when he's healthy. Like that's just who he is. If he's healthy, he's going to be like. He's just incredible. He's a top caliber pitcher in the NL. Ranger, like good gravy. I mean, I cannot say enough good things about him. He is such a respectable third arm in that rotation now. And
let me just say real quick. Me personally, and I'm not trying to like bash anyone else, but like, I stuck with Ranger through the tough times this year. And I know some of us did. So I just wanted to quick shout out all the people who said Rangers sucked, even when it happened in the wild card series too, or in the playoffs, and said that Bailey Falter should have started over him. So shout out you guys. But
that was not me, by the way. That's not why I was laughing. I was in the Ranger camp. Hunter can attest. I was in the Ranger camp.
Yeah, for sure.
For the longest time. But my point being is that
sorry.
Now, my point being is that like we have a respectable 3-man, our top 3. But if we get a 4, I mean, we're such a complete team. And, something to be said too. It's not even like we just have a deep roster. And also, I mean, credit to Alvarado, credit to Sir Anthony, credit to – do we have D-Rob for another year?
No, he's free agent.
He's a free agent.
I'm kind of okay with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I am too. I'm just wondering what our bullpen will look like then, because that's really the only.
We do need some bullpen arms.
Because I was but like I'm looking at this roster and I'm like, a bullpen arm we can add at a deadline. I'm sure by halfway through the season, there's going to be a guy that we can pull from the minors that will. I'm not saying they're going to set the world on fire or anything, but they'll be a respectable bullpen arm. So I'm not terribly worried about the bullpen per se.
Sure.
But I look at it and I'm just like, we are such a complete team. We're deep. And like you were saying, we have a deep, like, I don't want to say backup, but it's like, it's really nice that you have Sosa, Maton, and Vierling just waiting in the wings, like giving these guys really valuable rest. Like it's huge.
Real quick too. I just wanted to say on like, Vierling, Maton, and Sosa, granted, maybe they wouldn't start on a contender. They definitely would start on some like higher end rebuilding teams. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm not saying they're starters on. I'm not going to be that guy that says they could be starters on any other team. Like, no, I'm not an idiot. But like, those are very respectable backups who have developed too. A lot of teams will usually go out and spend on like a veteran backup who's been there for a while, and that works. But like, for us to be able to develop our backups, That's not easy to do when they're getting inconsistent playing time. And I know it became a little bit more consistent for some of those guys when injuries happened, like when Bryce went down. You saw Derek Hall playing a number of games, or when they sent him back down, like you saw Veerling play a number of games too.
Yeah.
Or like when Segura went down, Maton was slotted right in there and played really well in the two. I think he played like 2 games. Unfortunately, he got hurt like in the second game after that happened. But my point being, like, those guys have had starting experience because we kind of sucked before last year, and even at the start of last year we sucked too, and they were playing a good bit. But also for the Phillies to develop those guys, like they're not even playing every game. That says a lot about the player development and how much the staff has changed.
And Kevin Long too. I mean,
Kevin Long's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah, Kevin Long is a miracle worker. There's nothing else to say. But I mean, my point being is I just see this team, and then I think of who we have in the pipeline too. And like, all I can think is just our future is just so unbelievably bright. Like, it really is. And genuinely, I say this from the bottom of my heart, I don't think I've ever been like, the Eagles are doing phenomenal, and they're always going to be my number one team because Philly's a football town. But man, I would be lying if I said I am not like anxiously anticipating and awaiting the Phillies season right now. I mean, I am like literally, if you told me that like I could fast forward to the NFL playoffs and then I could watch that play out and fast forward from that to just opening day, I'd be like, let's do it. Let's go. Like, I'm there. Like, I'm so ready for Phillies baseball right now. It's insane.
And again, we have a lot of negative comments in here. Lustin Lurbert. Sorry about that. Replace him with 2 L's. But hey, thank you for popping in. We do appreciate it. But again, that's part of the thing that makes Trey Turner valuable is, while his plate discipline might not be as good as Xander Bogaerts, still gets on base a number of those times where he doesn't swing at good pitches. Look at what happened with the Astros in the World Series. They got a lot of lucky hits. They were fighting off pitches that were outside of the zone, but they dropped into green grass. And we need a guy who can set the table for us right now. And again, he's streaky, but if you look at him from May through August last year, he was really good. And in the playoffs, he did make that error, but at the plate, he was pretty solid in the playoffs. Like, look, $27 million, that's much less than I was expecting for him. So, if he's on the decline right now, I'll take those numbers any day of the week. And not just the numbers, I'll take him off the eye test any day of the week if that's that's it. So, and honestly, look, 2 years, we've got like 3, 4, 5 years right now of this window. Like, let's be real. In terms of where it ranks in like with signings in the past, I mean, I don't really know. I'm too excited to really answer or look at that right now. But like, look, I mean, I think it made a lot of sense for us right now. Like, this is for our situation, needing a leadoff hitter right now, needing a guy like Trey Turner, it made a ton of sense. But let's get to some of these other comments. Sean's saying he manifested this a few years ago. We appreciate you. Hopefully you're right on the number of World Series titles. We will see. A lot of Mike Trout talk in the comments right now.
I mean, listen,
I know you're not a huge Trout fan, Ian, but
I'm not.
You gotta admit.
Listen, I'll say this. I mean, like,
it's not going to happen for one. Let me just say
it's not going to happen. I know there are the people that are going to say like, oh, well, they're going to get rid of Shohei and Trout wants to win and he's going to be upset in LA and he's going to be all by himself. You know what I got to say? Like, you signed the contract. You signed it. You chose to be in LA. If you wanted to come home, I'm sure we could have made it work. But you made your bed, so lie in it. That's all I got to say. Lie in the bed that you made, Trout. But no, outside of that, even out of my Mike Trout hate, I will say this. Would it be amazing?
Oh, my goodness.
If we got him? Yes, it would. Would I be ecstatic? Yes. Not because I like him as a person, but because I really love him as a player. And I do think that he is like, but like he's not going to come here. I don't think we can afford him. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not. They're going to trade Shohei because they want to get what the haul that they're going to get for Shohei, and Trout's just going to have to pound sand. So
that'd be insane. And Lustin, we appreciate you dropping in. Hey, it's all in good fun, man. No worries.
All good fun. The Trout thing was the thing that really struck a nerve. If I'm being honest. The Trout thing struck a nerve for me.
The good says with the low AAV with Trey, we still have financial flexibility exactly to get one of our buddies did mention earlier they were roommates in college, or not roommates, teammates. If they were roommates in college, I might have some other thoughts about Rodon maybe coming here, but they were just teammates. So we'll see. Maybe it's a possibility, but look, like again, I think Ian said, even if we don't get Rodon, like if you get a Jameson Tyone at number 4, like we're totally fine. That's more than okay. It's an upgrade for sure. So, let's see. I don't know if we'll even then. I don't know if we'll be able to take on that contract. But
I just don't know. And also, I get that there's the theory that he would just request to go to Philly, but like, no.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But it would be awesome if it did. Like, I don't even know if
we rot in LA. Although now that I say it, just because I don't like Trout, it probably will happen. Just because I'm like, it's not going to happen. Screw you, Trout. Go rot in LA. Like then it'll probably be like, oh, Phillies just traded away Mick Abel and Reese Hoskins for Mike Trout, and I'll be like. I'll begrudgingly get on here and be like, well, I'm excited we have Trout, but I still don't like him. But like
if they ever did trade for him, I don't know if we'd even live stream. I think I might actually pass out if that ever happened. Regardless of what
Collins, I think would like pass out and then probably streak around campus or something if that happened. I don't know.
Honestly, what I really like about the Phillies is that they seem to be the perfect playoff team. But yes, we need help from pitching department. Absolutely. Yeah, we still got to get a couple bullpen guys. And look, that's the thing. I think people think we'd spend all of our money right now. Like, no, we still have a large amount of money to spend. Yeah. And even with the money, we still have space up until the luxury tax. I think we're going to go over the luxury tax. Like we might not need to, but we will if we want to, if we need to. Like we're going to get another starter for sure. Whether, I don't know if that's going to be Rodon, but like Ian said, we're still going to get a number 4 or 5 guy, most likely. And then, you have Falter as the number 5 starter. He's, obviously more than capable number 5 guy. And look, if Falter progresses next year, you're going to have a really solid guy in the 5th spot. We saw this year, not ready to pitch in the playoffs and probably not a guy you can trust in the rotation of the playoffs yet. But, when you look at some of the teams, like when Bailey Falter faced lower competition, he took care of business against the Pirates, the Nationals, teams like that. He did his job. The Cubs, that's all you need from a guy like that. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, you still need a couple bullpen guys for sure. Bullpen, I think, is the one thing I am a little bit concerned about. So, it seems like it always comes down to that. But
it's the Phillies' Achilles heel, really.
Yes, they are in on getting Tyone. There's 3 or other 4 teams in on him too. So there is competition for him. I want to say he's closer to 30.
Okay.
Let's see. It's loading right now. He's 31. So, yeah, he's not the youngest guy, but at the same time, it's not going to be a long-term deal. There are other teams in on him, so I don't know if we'll get him for sure, but I have confidence we're going to land a number 4 starter in free agency because I think we have to. We already talked about that one. New Jersey guy. We know. I know. Ian doesn't like that. To talk about that.
I don't like it. I think he's a fake Philly guy. That's a thing for another day.
So who's the team to beat in the NL East? I mean,
us.
I think it's us right now. But I'll reserve judge. Look, the Braves and the Mets, they always find a way. The Braves especially, they're very good. We still went 6-13 versus the Mets last year. So I'm not sure that one acquisition changes that, but I do think when the offseason is when it's all said and done by the end of the offseason, I do think we'll be right up there, talk about with the Braves and the Mets too. The Braves, for some reason, regardless of what they do, they just
perpetually have our number.
Maybe we change our fortunes a little bit with the Braves after beating them in the play. I cannot believe we won that series.
That was insane. I really thought that was the end of the line.
After once I knew we were playing the Padres, though, I felt pretty good about that.
Oh yeah,
I would prefer to play.
I felt good about, but the Braves, I was like, Braves just perpetually have our balls down a salad shooter. I was like, there's no way.
Hey, Giants can have Aaron Judge. That's totally fine with me.
I thought they already. I don't know why I thought they already signed him. I could be totally. I'm definitely wrong. I feel like that would be.
Yeah. There's definitely been a lot of talk about it. I
Like
also
Mandela
think
effect or something. Or it's
I
like
think it's still a free agent. It would be hilarious if they just didn't get him though. Like Gabe Kapler and everyone thinks they're gonna get Aaron Judge, and then
Gabe
bang,
Kapler is proving why we let him go. He caught lightning in a bottle one year, and then
last year
has he been back to the playoffs since then or no?
Well, he only been there for 2 years, so he made the playoffs his first year with the Giants, and then, well, was he there?
I thought he was there 3 years.
COVID year, right? COVID year, I don't think he made it.
I thought he did.
Because I know 2021 they definitely made it because they won like 100 games. Okay. They won like 100 games and lost to the Dodgers. 2020, I'm not sure. I don't think they made it in 2020 because that was the year the Marlins made it too. I forget, but hey, if the Giants don't get Judge, I will definitely be revisiting this comment, Robert. But we shall see, though. We shall see. It definitely seems like it's a possibility. If we get Trout, who do you give away then? I mean, look, I don't know if I even want to talk about that because, like, the deal would have to just be it'd be so insurmountable. Like,
it would be such a haul too. I mean, you would.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you would. I don't like. You would 1,000% have to give up like Abel and Painter and like probably Reese and probably like Justin Crawford.
You'd probably have to go up like Schwarber and Castellanos or like maybe even Trey at that point. Like, I don't think you'd be keeping a lot of players, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if it'd even be worth it at that point.
It really. And also, like, not to be whatever, but Trout, I think, does have like a chronic back issue. I think now too, doesn't he? Something like that. Could be wrong.
But. Yeah, they were concerned about his what the back injury could mean long term for him.
And so. I'm sorry, like, as good as Trout is, I would not want to trade what we have or trade away our future for a guy who has a chronic back injury. And I don't want I don't want us to pull an Angels where we just give up the farm and then it doesn't work out. And then we're screwed. Like, we're perpetually screwed.
Yeah. I don't know if this is much of a concern. I think this is more a plus. Trey Turner played 160 games last year. In 2021, he played 148 out of 162 games. In 2020, he played 59 out of 60 games. And in 2019, he played 122 games. So he did miss some time that year. But the year before that, he played all 162 games. So ever since he's really been like a solidified starter, he has not been injured very often. So that's
and I know this is kind of a stupid thing to cite, but I don't know if anyone saw Trey had like his own little highlight reel that he literally had John Hamm narrate. And it does give you chills when you're watching it. It is pretty cool. But one of the things that is in the reel is that he's rarely ever injured. And they highlight like, he's played like John Hamm literally goes through. He's like 122 out of 162, 160, 162. Like, he goes through all of it. And then he like, so Trey is not a guy. And also I think it was like in all of those full seasons, it was like 290, 280, 300, 302, like just consistently, like he's like, the guy doesn't get very like, he has yet to really knock on wood, but like doesn't really get hurt that often.
No. And then Levi Santos, Lakers LA fan here, says, was not worth it for my Dodgers. But even then, like, you look at what not worth it for the Dodgers means. I mean, like, he was still playing fairly well in LA.
He was still the best shortstop in the MLB. Like,
one of them. Like, maybe he wasn't playing at the level he was in Washington, but he's still playing at a pretty high level. And granted, I will say, like, first year, the contract doesn't always go as planned. Like, we saw that with Castellanos this year. We saw it with Bryce his first year with us. Like, it wasn't bad.
I still contend Bryce was good his first year.
No, he was. But, like, even you look at Arenado and Goldschmidt, like, they still put up, like, the normal power numbers, but they both hit, like, and they were still, like, really good defensively, but they both hit, like, 260. Like, they're not – sometimes that happens. But, like, I have confidence in the long run and, like, down the road that Trey's going to be huge for this team. And, again, like, look, I mentioned this earlier. Like, I don't know if this impacted his performance a ton, but I do think he wanted to be on the East Coast. I think he liked being in Washington. His wife's from New Jersey. I don't know if he necessarily loved the switch of just going to the West Coast. Like, it's not always as easy as it seems to make that transition, especially a ball club like the Dodgers. Like, there's a lot of expectations there. So yeah, Philly, there's a lot of expectations and stuff too. It's a town that definitely takes baseball seriously when we're doing well, and they will for sure now in the next few years. Like that stadium it's going to be filled up more than not moving forward. So look, I maybe it wasn't as great for the Dodgers, but I think regardless, this deal still makes a ton of sense for us. So, and believe me, we remember that Kapler was manager of the year, but what happened? He lost in the first round because he's a bum. So,
he is a bum.
Now, Grant, I'm happy he's done good for you as a Giants fan, but just understand that we are not fans of him here at Philly Insider Podcast, and we are definitely glad he is out of the building, and we're glad that Rob Thompson is in the building. So,
absolutely,
I will say, I think while Rob Thompson, the last few games of the World Series, some questionable bullpen decisions, overall he pulled a lot of the right strings, and
he did.
definitely was refreshing after all those years of bullpen decisions with Gabe Kapler. So those were just nightmare years. So, Dominic, what's going on? Price for Trout is a lot lower than you think. Yeah, I do understand. I understand Trout is getting older, but also if you're making the case that he's going to get older and decline, and that his back injury is part of it, and that his huge contract brings down his value a lot, then it also comes into play. Like, well, then why would you want him as much if that's the case? Like, if you're making that case to where like you're trying to see why the Angels would give him up, like, yeah, maybe there is a case where he might not be as expensive, but look, this guy's the best baseball player of our lifetime. Like, I think that's fair to say. Maybe
it is true.
Like, at least maybe not our lifetime, but like at least from like our era of like our childhood and like when we started watching baseball, he is the best baseball player we have watched in at least in my lifetime. He's probably
as two 20 and 22-year-old and the 21-year-old, like he is the best. Like as much as I dislike him, he's the best. Like,
he's still going to garner a big deal if he gets traded at some point. Like, it's not going to be.
Trout's decline is still, much as I don't like him, he's still a top 5 player. Like,
yeah, for real.
Like him declining from being top 1 to top 5. Like, oh boy, he's really terrible now. Like, I don't mean that in a mean way, and I do apologize if that came off the wrong way. But my point being is he's still going to garner a massive deal. In my opinion.
Yeah. And I do understand this. He wasn't great in the playoffs for the Dodgers, and his defense was not great for the Dodgers. We did mention that earlier in the stream. You could argue he might have more pressure in Philly than LA, but like I also think that the city's going to embrace him a ton. And like, look at how the guys had Castellanos' back the whole year. Like, I acknowledge the first year might not go as well as planned, just because that happens sometimes in baseball. But over the long run, I'm confident he'll be big for us, and I do think that he has an opportunity, like a nice fresh start to kind of turn things around. Again, I think he wanted to be on the East Coast. I do think this is a valid point, but look, I overall, I just think that the Phillies needed this right now a ton. Like, it just made a lot of sense for us. So, which player is the best all-around player in both leagues? I mean, I'd say it's probably Trout right now.
In both leagues?
I'm guessing he means AL and
I mean, if you're saying AL, NL, I mean, I'm biased. I'm going to be honest. This answer comes fully out of bias. I would say Trout, or not Trout. I would say
True. My bad. Shohei Ohtani. Yeah.
Shohei and Bryce would be my two. I mean, even an injured Bryce being like rising to the occasion consistently during the playoffs. I mean, I would probably say it's Bryce and Shohei personally. But I know I come from a place of deep bias because literally Bryce is my favorite player in the MLB and Shohei's my second favorite player. And no, before you say, oh, Ian, you just hopped on the Shohei bandwagon, Hunter can attest, I was well on the Shohei bandwagon before he popped off because I would joke with Zach Covlins all the time that Shohei was better than Trout. And this was when Shohei was hitting like 191. So I've been with Shohei for a while. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, look, I can't believe I forgot Shohei. Shohei is definitely American League. I mean, look, that's not a big question. As far as National League goes, I think Bryce is up there. I mean, I think Goldschmidt and Arenado are up there because of the defensive value they bring, especially Arenado. While they're probably not like speedsters or anything, like I think they're pretty great all-around baseball players. So probably those two guys, and I'm trying to think if there's really anyone else in the NL I would think of and group in there. I mean, those are really the big ones I would think of. But I will state again, all I want is a 4 for the rotation. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about most of the time. If they get Rodon, that's chef's kiss. I'm okay with Tyone and then Painter. If Painter comes up, then yeah, he can definitely fill that 5 role. So, yeah, like him and wish you guys the best. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Levi. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. We're in a very excited mood right now, so we might come off as rude to some people, but
yeah, and we
just our opinions. We're just two guys on a podcast. This is just our opinions. So, and he says, as right now, as my Dodgers are constructing, your Phillies are constructing, you guys would whoop our butts. Hey, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, look, you get in a playoff series, you never know what can happen. As showed by the Padres and Phillies this past year. So maybe the Phillies would be expected to win a series and the Dodgers would surprise us or something. The Dodgers always are going to be competitive.
Yeah, the Dodgers compete every year.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too worried about your guys. Your guys are going to get right before the season starts, I'm sure. But yeah, absolutely. Very good rotation. Good. Hey, I forgot you're in Italy. So thank you for tuning in, Irio. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you for coming, man. We appreciate it. Ciao.
Yeah, thank you. Love the Italy love.
Yeah. Cap wise, you could get Rodon. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely feasible now. Your best option would be 5 if Painter's ready. That's why I said Painter. Yeah, he is cheap, but also like if he's not ready, I'm fine with starting Falter in that spot to start the season.
And also you don't. If you rush a guy, I mean, I hate to say it, I hate to bring him up, I hate dogging him all the time, but I think you know where I'm going with this. Look at Kingery. Look at Scott Kingery.
Yeah.
Like we rushed him. We literally he starts hitting well in spring training and we inked him to like a big deal right away. And look, I mean, I think he's still in the minors now. Like
he went back to AAA. Yeah. I think we might have gotten rid of him. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. But
I thought I saw something about him this offseason.
My point being is like, you know, we saw what happened with Scott Kingery. We can learn from our own mistakes here. Like,
and look, I do understand that Painter is climbing the ladder very quickly. I do. Yes. We do recognize that, but at the same time, if he's not ready to start right out of spring training, you don't want to do that. Like I do think Painter could come up at some point in the year. I'm just saying, I understand Painter is definitely the higher potential, but I'm totally fine if we just start Falter to start the year. Like, I don't think we're in panic mode if they don't think Painter's ready. Is there a good chance Painter could come up at some point in the year? Yeah, for sure. But I also, look, we're arguing something that's very, very minor in detail right here. Like, if Falter starts the season, I don't think that's a huge issue. And then if Painter comes up and gets an opportunity to learn as the season goes on, that's great too. Like, if Painter's ready, I really don't care. I don't care who gets the 5 spot. Like, if he gets the 5 spot, that's great. Like,
yeah,
I don't care. We're just saying, like, if he's not ready, you don't need to rush him. And I don't think I trust the Phillies rotation trust the Phillies front office and coaching staff to understand when he's ready and like what he needs to work on and to have a good timeline with that, because I think they've done a good job with that over the past year or two. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean that, you know, I think it depends on the situation. I think that with Stott and Sosa, I think by the time the World Series came around, I was like, look, I love Sosa. I understand he hits lefties. You know, Sosa didn't actually hit lefties like significantly better last year. But yeah. I was at the point where I was like, look, the way Stott's working at bats right now, like, you got to let him grow. Like, I don't want to platoon him anymore. I think they will let him.
I mean, look what he was able to do. I mean, Stott had some big hits in the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
some clutch doubles that either started rallies,
yes,
drove runs in. Like, Stott, the amount of growth that Stott had from the beginning of the season to the last game of the World Series, I am so proud of him, and I cannot wait to see him more. I really can't. Like,
yeah, and look, the biggest thing with him was like, even on at bats where he just worked a walk, or like even when he got out, he worked at bats and saw a lot of pitches.
He would take like a lot. He would make those pitchers fight.
He fouled off a lot of fastballs. Fouled off the fastball and hit the breaking ball. And this year, I think he's going to work on catching up to the velocity, as is Marsh, of high velocity fastballs. I think they're going to get better at that as the year goes on. So I think Bohm has shown some improvement in that area and starting to hit those. So let's go. I'm excited. Also on this, I would say Marsh and Veerling, I think it made some sense, because I think there was a clear difference between Veerling obviously hits lefties significantly better than he hits righties, and I also don't think Marsh hits lefties very well. We'll see how that changes next year. But Go Phils. Love to
Go
see it.
Phils.
Nice profile picture. I do like me some Kenny Pickett, but and we already read this comment here. Let's see. What do you guys think about my Dodgers wanting Judge? Personally, I hate it. We need pitching. Last thing you need is a big contract. Yeah, I mean, look, that is a lot of money to take on, and I do think Judge is a phenomenal player. I mean, look, there is definitely a lot of pitchers you want to target out there. Personally, I don't think it'd be a bad thing for the Dodgers. I do think, like you said, they should focus on pitching, but I think the Dodgers are going to find a way to compete regardless. I mean, that's just they're already guaranteed a spot in the NLDS every year, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean it's just their MO. Also, I mean, this is just a personal thing. Call me crazy. It would just be really weird seeing Judge not in like the Yankees pinstripes. Like it'd be really weird. And I don't see him leaving New York. I feel like he's just kind of testing the market just to see who would give him a bigger contract. But I think if it's like a negligible amount more, I think you just choose to go back to. I think Judge wants that balance of he wants to win, but he also wants to get his bag. But
yeah, he hit 62 home runs. You're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I think I personally I really don't see him leaving New York. That's just me. It's just a hunch.
Okay. And look, if Painter does make the big club out of spring training, I'll be the happiest of all.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, if he's not ready, they're not going to put him up there. So I'm just not. Again, it's not really that big of a deal. Like either way, like regardless of what happens, I think we have an answer at the number 5 spot. It's really just about getting number 4 guy and who it is.
Yeah.
So, just seeing people like McKenzie from the Guardians show that maybe the young guys should get a shot, and I'm not opposed to that. Like I'm just saying, like it's different for every single pitcher, right? Like. Every pitcher is going to be ready at a different time. There's a different timeline for every player. So you got to be mindful of what progress Painter has made. And, you don't want to, Spencer Howard's a much different situation. So I'm not comparing it to that, but, you don't want to have that happen again. Now, granted, Spencer, again, like I said, it's a different situation. Spencer Howard, his velocity tailed off after 3 innings, which is, I haven't seen that from many guys. So he could be a good relief pitcher down the road, but obviously Spencer Howard's not a starter. But anyway. Yeah. We talked about this. Stott was tremendous at second base this past year. Like
100%.
It is great for him to be playing second base. What do you consider a quality start for a pitcher? I mean, well, for one, by definition, it's 6 innings, 3 earned runs. That's obviously a definition of it. So I personally, if you can give me 5 innings of 3-run baseball as like a number 5 pitcher, like I'll take that. That personally for me, I'll take the like 1 less inning, or like if you can give me 5 of 2-run baseball, or like 6 innings of 4-run baseball, or 7 innings of 4-run baseball. Like I will take that. So that like, if you think about it, like 4.5 ERA is 6 innings, 3 runs, like, even like sometimes a little higher than that. Usually that's a result of imploding in some starts, but like you can give me 5 innings, 3-run runs, or 6 innings, 7 innings with 4-run runs. I'll take that. That's me personally. Depends on if you have a lineup the Phillies had like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm not taking that, because we needed guys to be lights out, because we didn't have the lineup. But now that we have a lineup like we do, like, if you have a good enough lineup, you can warrant, I think, what I said. So Griff McGarry, we talked about him a little bit earlier too. Another guy who could come up and really make an impact for this team, which would be huge. So I don't know if Painter comes up, I don't know if he'll be making spot starts. I think if he comes up, like they'll watch his innings for sure, but I think they're going to have him on a schedule and in a rhythm. I don't think it'll just be spot starts.
Yeah. And also too, I think one thing to add to that is we need to see where Painter's at this year. I mean, he only came up to Double-A. I think it was August. It was either late July or August. We don't know how he's going to do in Double-A yet, and granted he'll have spring training, but still it's just, I'm not saying hold him back. I'm not saying pull him up. I think Hunter is saying, like, the front office is going to know. They've made the right call so far. Just trust them with the decision, whether they want to pull them up or just leave them down. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's not like this is our window. It's not like we need to aggressively retool for the next few years. So it's not like, it's not like Wheeler and Nola are going anywhere for the next few years. So it's not like we need someone. It's not like all right, we need Painter to get up so that he can replace Nola and replace Wheeler so we can have an ace again. It's like, let's calm down a little bit. Like it'll be okay. He doesn't have to come up this year. It'd be great if he does, but it's not a necessity in my opinion.
Sure. No, I agree. Like, I think we're both on the same page. Like,
Yeah.
If everyone here is right and he does start out of spring training and he does well, like
Great.
we're happy. Like
Yeah.
we're not arguing against that happening, but we're just saying, like, again, like Ian said, you made a great point. Like, it's not like he pitched in Double-A for some of the year. Like, and again, I know Nola progressed pretty quickly, but he also came right out of college too. A little bit of a different story. Like, you know, if he's not ready like right away, that's totally fine. You know, you have a guy, again, like Ian said, he just came up to Double-A. Like, it's how many times do you see a guy just make a jump from like pitching a few games in Double-A to coming up? Like, yeah, Rule 5, you see it sometimes, but not like very often. And granted, maybe Painter is that like not very often rare type of guy who's just going to be ready. But yeah, that's I think that we pretty much made our points on that though. What else is it? What's up, Travis? Welcome in. We did talk about this a little bit. I mean, if Chris Bassett becomes available outside of that qualifying offer, that's a possibility. Jameson Taino has been linked to us. Rodon's kind of like oh my gosh, we got him. That'd be insane. And then there's a number of other guys who Ross Stripling's on the market. There's a few other guys who I remember looking at who I have a list, but I haven't looked at it recently. But those are the names off the top of my head. So yeah, that's what I got on that. And as far as you asked the Dodgers' perfect offseason, I mean, like shortstop, outfield, I think those are needs. Like you said, I think pitching's a need, starting pitching specifically. But yeah, I'm not a Dodgers fan, so I don't want to speak too much for your team. But especially, I still got to do more research on this offseason to see who's available and stuff like that, and just how good the guys are. But he does say, you guys are cool. Let's be real. My Dodgers don't have energy to keep up with your Phillies. Our fans are like Philly. I just seeing the atmosphere and energy of the fans of every fan base, but ours, I just think the answer isn't signing all these stars. It's killing us. Can't really compete to me, at least. Interesting to hear from Dodgers fan. We do appreciate it. Yeah. I think a lot of,
by the way, we appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't. We enjoy debating with you guys. We enjoy agreeing with you guys regardless. Like, we enjoy just having this conversation. So, yeah, if you guys enjoy the live stream, just give us a subscribe and a thumbs up if you can. That being said, like, we'll get to these last few comments here and then we'll probably wrap it up. We've been live for a long time now. But what was I going to say? Sure would be nice to have a 101 mile an hour flamethrower. Yeah. I mean, if Painter's ready at some point this year, that would be pretty insane. But anything you want to say, Ian, before we sign off here and wrap this up?
No, I mean, I think we covered so much. The only thing I really have to say is, like, March cannot get here fast. Or I'm sorry, not March, April. April cannot get here fast enough.
Man, I am excited for it. I'm really looking forward to. And Travis says, "Let's go, Phils. Let's go, Phils, man."
Let's go, Phils.
I'm ready for October to roll around again, mostly because I'll be home for it hopefully next year. That's what I'm anticipating at least. So.
I'm really trying to make it out to my first opening day this year. So
yeah,
knock on wood.
I do want to pull up a Bryson Stott tweet that happened a couple hours ago when Trey Turner was signed, because I think it's pretty great. Let me pull it up here. So Bryson Stott posted this.
That's awesome.
There was a lot of those like a lot of people make those like jersey swaps going around of like, they just like poor jersey swaps and stuff like that. So I thought that was hilarious. But Levi, thank you for the sub, man. We really appreciate it. Hey, of course, we always are willing to have other fans on and have conversation about it. So we appreciate you for having an open mind and coming here talking to some very opinionated Phillies fans. So Mike D says Taillon with the Yankees might be the guy. 15 million. I think he might, the way his market's heating up, he might get a little more than that, but definitely a guy who's on the radar. But anyway, Ian, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. We covered a lot outside of Trey Turner. We covered a lot about Trey Turner. So thank y'all for watching. We will have more free agency and Phillies content going. This is first off season we've really been invested in for the Phillies for a little bit. Outside last year, to an extent, the lockout happened, so it wasn't really until March came around that we were looking at Philly stuff again. So thank y'all for the support. We appreciate it. Ring the bell. Let's go Phils. God bless y'all. And we will see y'all hopefully on the next Carlos Rodon podcast. But peace out.